What happened with the Ahed Tamimi case is that it got a massive coverage in the outside, which we haven't seen lately when it comes to Palestine.
Conflict doesn't sell. If you watch commercial channels and websites and a newspaper, you hardly read about the conflict because we can live without knowing about the suffering of the Palestinians.
Very close to Nebi Saleh is a Jewish settlement, illegal under international law. This area is always tense and the army's main job is to guard the settlers.
طبعا كل المنطقة هاي في حواليها مستوطنات وكل مكان بتلاقي مستوطنة أو معسكر أو إشي بخص الاحتلال.
Before 1967, Nabi Saleh was a little farming village under the control of the Jordanian government. When Israel seized control of the West Bank that year and began its military occupation,
the UN proposed separate Israeli and Palestinian states in 1947, but a series of wars would lead to large-scale displacements, shifting boundaries, and the Israeli military occupation of the Palestinian territories. Today, Israel still occupies the West Bank and tightly controls the flow of people and goods into Gaza.
The idea of the existence of Israel and the policy of Israel in the Israeli occupation army, since the beginning of the Zionist movement, does not recognize the existence of rights for the Palestinians on their land.
Much of the conflict reflects a consistent failure on all sides to understand the legitimacy of the other's narrative. To Palestine, the Palestinian people have been denied a state not just since the formation of Israel, but also for decades before that. To Israel, the Jewish people clearly need a homeland which the United Nations established. It's necessary to understand the right of each to exist and the legitimacy of each's historical narrative.
This is the state of the conflict as we know it today. It's relatively new and it's unbearable for Palestinians. In the West Bank, more and more settlements are smothering Palestinians, often respond with protests and sometimes with violence, though most just want normal lives. In Gaza, Hamas and other violent groups have periodic wars with Israel. The fighting overwhelmingly kills Palestinians, including lots of civilians.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
But East Jerusalem has been under Israeli occupation since it was captured by Israel in 1967. Palestinians want it as their capital in a future Palestinian state.
The US is delivering a lethal bullet to the heart of the two-state solution. That would be actually the kiss of death to the two-state solution.
There have been protests in the region for the last month, in fact, over the US president's recognition of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. Well, one Palestinian who felt the brunt of the police response was this 14-year-old boy on your screens now. He had been throwing stones at IDF soldiers, and it seems he was injured after being hit back in the face by a rubber bullet. The boy's injuries were too much for his cousin to bear, though. She confronted two heavily armed soldiers last week over it, and that was filmed.